morning. Welcome to you all this morning. Welcome to Orchard Ridge United Church of Christ. In this Easter season, there are 50 days of Easter. It's not just the one Sunday, so we get to celebrate and practice resurrection our whole lives long, really, but certainly the next 50 days and today, where our theme will surround around looking at the beauty of the earth. And today, I'm excited to share that my spouse, Daniel Cooperrider, is going to be offering the sermon this morning, which will kick off a book study that is sponsored by our Care of Creation team. And you'll be able to sign up for those times out in the crossroads here. My name is Julia Berkey. I am the senior pastor here at Orchard Ridge, where we strive to be spiritually alive, joyfully inclusive, and committed to justice. If you're new here this morning, or if you've been coming here for many years, welcome to you, whatever you're bringing and whatever you're holding. And if you are new with us this morning and you would like to give us your contact information, we have friendship pads at the ends of the rows. We invite you to fill out your information so we can connect with you more deeply. We have a special Sunday this Sunday as well, where we are welcoming some new members into our midst. And that's always a wonderful occasion to think about the purpose of church and how we live out sharing our gifts and supporting one another as we build the beloved community. This week, I'm excited because we have one of our final wayfinding for elders, the Soul Tasks of Aging retreats. And that is Wednesday morning and Thursday afternoon. And this week we are focusing on the afterlife, life after death. And so it'll be wonderful to gather with you in Friendship Hall and over Zoom. We're also having, sponsored by the Care of Creation mission team, we're having a clothing drive. Actually, I'm sorry, Christian Witness Service is sponsoring this clothing drive. And you may bring clothes, especially for young ones. This Sunday, if you brought them, they'll be collected in Crossroads, and next Sunday as well. Pastor Ken, I know you have some announcements, so come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So a couple of announcements. First of all, these lovely Easter flowers were given by you in loving memory or in honor of a loved one. And this morning, we did include that list of your donations in the bulletin. So take note of that, your name and the person in whom you donated your flower. So feel free, if you donated a flower, feel free to take it home with you after worship this morning. And another very important announcement, I popped a button on my vest this morning, so if you find a brown button, it's mine. And we are going to take our birthday offering this morning, so if you are celebrating a birthday in the month of April, we invite you to come forward, and if you have money, fine, you can place it in the basket, or just come forward and pretend, because we want to acknowledge you and your birthday as we sing to you. All money donated will go toward the pastor's discretionary fund. Thank you. Vicki, Bruce. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friends. Happy birthday to you. One more time. Happy birthday. Thank you. And now we have a couple members from Congregational Life that have an announcement for you. And this is regarding an insert in your bulletin that they will ask you to pull out right now. And we have our welcomers that are going to walk around with pencils and pens. If you need a writing instrument, put up your hand, because we're really eager to have you fill up this form this morning.
So like Ken said, we have an announcement. All right, that was almost coordinated. So
Our volunteers didn't, do what they're supposed to. Okay. Thank you, Karen. We are trying to get more volunteers to help with things like ushering, welcomers, making coffee, lay liturgists. So on the sheet that is in your bulletin, you can fill it out with a pencil if you want, or if you want to get out your phone and scan the QR code, there's also a Google form that you can complete. Make sure to turn the paper over. I can't do this with the microphone. There are opportunities to volunteer on both sides.
yeah, so feel free to fill that out now, and you can put it into the communion baskets this week, or the offering baskets. Wow, wrong word. But also that QR code is there, which will allow you to fill it out online. We have heard a lot of people say, what's happened to coffee hour? No one sticks around after church. What's happened is that no one's volunteering to run coffee hour. So be the change you wish to see in the coffee hour time period after church. Fill out this form and turn them back in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Sunday after Easter in some places is called Holy Humor Sunday. And so we are sort of accidentally bringing that levity of the resurrection today. I love that. So let's center ourselves now as we continue to pass things. This will be the passing of the peace. And first I want to just guide us in a few breaths of centering ourselves in God's peace. And after that, we'll rise and we'll pass the peace to one another, and I'll guide us in that. So just take a few breaths, centering breaths where you are. Feel free to close your eyes or keep them open. Breathing in the fresh spring air, purified by this rain that the earth needed. Breathe out, let go. Breathe in, connect deeply to peace, to source, to the present moment. Breathe out, let go of distraction. Breathing in, be here now, centered in God's peace. Breathing out. Invite you now to move your energy to your feet. Feel gravity with the earth. And make your way forward. Shift your weight to your feet as you stand up, as you rise, as you are able. And feel free to do that in spirit if you would prefer. And place your hands over your heart center, as if gathering the peace of God, the peace of Christ, right at your heart center and at your hands. And I invite you now to turn to one another and greet each other with a sign of peace, just bowing to one another. Peace be with you. The Christ in me greets the Christ in you. So we'll sing together now a wonderful Easter song, and you may actually remain standing as we go into song. And this is hymn number 238, and the words will be projected on the wall, but you can also turn so you can see the tune to number 238. Now the green blade rises, a wonderful tune for this morning. I want to bless you as you go to be with Julie Mazer and her guides as you prepare to do some fun ukulele music. So, Julie is at these doors or any of the doors you can go to, and we bless you, children of the church. Come on forward, Doug.
We have only begun to love the earth.
We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life.
How can we tire of hope? So much is in bud.
How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy.
Only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beasts and flowers, not as oppressors.
Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in silt all that is innocent.
Not yet, not yet. There is much that must be mended.
We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle.
So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture.
So much
is in bud. Amen.
I got me flowers to strew thy way. I got me boughs of many a tree. But thou wast up by break of day, and brought thy sweets along with thee. The sun arising in the east, though he give light and the east perfume, if they should offer to contest with thy arising, they presume. Can there be any day but this, though many suns do shine endeavor? We count 300, but we miss. There is but one, and that one ever.
Thank you so much, Bruce and Vicki. I invite all of our new members to come forward and form a semicircle right up here on the platform behind our communion table. We have 11 beautiful people joining our church this morning. And I'm going to give you permission to take your masks off. We want to see your faces. So I'll introduce these folks to us. We have Ryan and Laura Connors. Put your hands up. And Susan Wagner is now on the, on the right side of Laura. Chris Dankmeyer, Bev Davis, Dale and Leslie Rebhorn, Ann Reifenberg, Pam Moe, and Deborah Green. So we're so grateful. Oh, here's Susan. Hi, Susan. Susan Doval has just joined us. So we came together over 5 successive weeks for first a meet and greet, and then 4 new member classes where we looked at the distinctives and values of this congregation, a little bit about the United Church of Christ, but most importantly, we told one another stories. And the storytelling was so helpful in helping us bond as a community, a small community. And we're so grateful that you are going to be sharing your gifts, your skills, your vision, your passion with this congregation and we with you. So I have some questions for you, and I'll share with you exactly what you're to say. Friends, are you willing to proclaim publicly your faith in God, your desire to follow in the way of Jesus, and your trust that the Holy Spirit is alive and well in the world? Are you willing to say that even with unanswered questions and doubts, the way of God is the way for you? If so, please say, I am willing with God's help.
I am willing with God's help.
Are you willing to say publicly that you want to live a life of compassion, beautifully modeled to us by Jesus? Are you willing to say that you believe the Christian faith will help you stay spiritually alive, joyful towards all people, and committed to working for justice in your life and in the world? If so, please say, I am willing with God's help.
I am willing with God's help.
And as this church says yes to you, are you willing to say yes to this church? Owning your own faith, sharing your own ideas, supporting others as best you can. If so, please say, I am willing with God's help.
I am willing with God's help.
And now to the congregation, those of you gathered here, whether you're members or not, those in the congregation, you get to affirm these folks here. So, having heard these promises, do you members and friends, visitors of Orchard Ridge United Church of Christ, promise to walk with these friends in the Christian faith? Do you promise to support them in their participation in the life of this congregation? Do you promise to share your life with them even as you let them share their lives with you? If so, please respond by saying, we do.
We do.
So together we recite our church covenant. You in the congregation, along with our friends here, the words are on the screens in front of us. Shall we recite together? Believing in the Creator, in the Christ, and in the Holy Spirit, we covenant together in this church to walk in the ways of God, known or to be made known to us. As a community of concern, we pledge to worship together, learn together, and work together, to build loving relationships with all people, and to live in healthy balance with all of God's creation.
New members, I want to offer you this blessing of welcome and of gratitude for being who you are and taking the risk of joining and saying yes. And that is a beautiful thing that is led by the Spirit. And so I welcome you by offering this blessing. And so feel free, if you'd like, to just receive a blessing. You can open your hands like this. Spirit of God, Spirit of justice and joy and inclusivity, pour your love onto these new members of Orchard Ridge United Church of Christ. Like the new blossoms and the new blades of green life springing forth, let your new life spring forth in the hearts of each of these new members and of everyone gathered here, with the promise that the world that we long to see, the world of justice and joy for all creation, is possible, and that we strive to create that here and practice your love and practice resurrection. Be with us as these new members mingle their gifts and get to know the people gathered here in this church. Help us to know that we are one in spirit. Bless us in your name. Amen.
So now we as a congregation have some words for you. Please repeat after me each phrase. We welcome you with joy.
We welcome you with joy.
As partners in the common life of this church.
As partners in the common life of this church.
We promise you our friendship and prayers.
We promise you our friendship and prayers.
As we share the hopes and labors of the Church of Jesus Christ. As we share the hopes and labors of the Church of Jesus Christ. God grant that together, we may continue to grow. In God's love and compassion in all that we do.
In God's love and compassion in all that we do.
Welcome. Take a moment. Deb? Susan? Pam? Leslie? Laura? Ann? Chris? Here you are. Susan? Thank you. Return to your seats.
You may return to your seats. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now we welcome this morning's offering, and Bruce and Vicky, we're so blessed with the duets that you're offering us today. Thank you so much. And we are hearing today, or we're offering our gifts today to the UCC camps in Wisconsin. And this congregation has deep, long appreciation and history with these camps. So feel free as they play to come forward and put an offering in the baskets, or the ushers will come around if you just raise your hand. And give generously and as you are able. And thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Bruce and Vicki. We turn now to a time of prayer, and I'll begin with some prayers of joy. Joy for our glorious Holy Week and Easter services. 270 attended our two services last Sunday morning, the early service and the later service. Ground of all being. Joy for our pastoral search committee's recommendation of a candidate for the position of associate pastor for children, youth, and families, Reverend Kate Mackey. Ground of all being. For the new friends, 11 of them who just joined our church this morning, ground of all being. For Amy Kell's partner Ray, who is doing well following surgery this past Tuesday to address neuroendocrine cancer. The pathology report came back a couple of days ago, revealing they got all the cancer. Ground of all being. For our Care of Creation mission team, launching the discussion groups with Daniel's book, Speak with the Earth, and it will teach you. Ground of all being. For flowering trees, daffodils, hyacinths, and Easter lilies. Ground of all being. Prayers of concern. For encouragement and support of our members who are caring for family members with serious and chronic illnesses. Ground of all being. For Lori Miller's mother, who is in hospice in Lori and Kristen's home. Ground of all being. For John Gilbert, who is putting his life back together and is looking for ways to serve the Lord. Ground of all being. For Chris Thomas, recovering from knee replacement surgery. For an 8-year-old boy, Axel, who is being treated for a rare brain cancer. His last bout of chemotherapy began last Sunday. Prayers for a cancer-free life for Axel and his family. For Dion Stevens, who is in hospice at home. For John Lemke, being treated for cancer. Ground of all being. For asylum seekers, looking for a place to call home. Ground of all being. For the victims of knife and gun violence, for those grieving the deaths of the 5 people killed by a mass shooter in Louisville, Kentucky on April 10th, and just last evening, another mass shooter opened fire at a birthday party. Not even sure how many were killed, but over 20 injured, 6, 7 at least murdered, young people. Ground of all being. Do you have other joys or concerns you'd like to share? Yes, Sherry.
I would just ask for prayers for the celebration of Bruce's mother next Saturday in the Twin Cities. She was 96 and a woman full of wit and compassion and love, and we'll miss her.
Ground of all being. Lauren?
Prayers and traveling mercies for my father and my brother who is driving him and all of his things as he is ending his life in Florida and at 72 packing up and starting over again back home in Kentucky. Just prayers for them as they make that journey.
Ground of all being. Yes. Anne.
A prayer of joy for the safe arrival of our daughter Nora and granddaughter Zoe from Mongolia, back for the birth of another baby. And I would like prayers of courage and clarity to understand how to more actively respond to our gun situation.
Ground of all being. Yes, Sarah.
A prayer of joy for Carolyn's birthday today. She's 82. I don't think she'll mind if I say that.
Happy birthday, Carolyn. Ground of all being. So we are going to recite together a beautiful rendition of the Lord's Prayer, ecological Lord's Prayer. And this was written by Dr. Claudio Carvalhas. Say it for me, Julia.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine, and he does beautiful writing. You said it, Claudio Carvalhas.
Thank you. Claudio is a liberation theologian from Union Theological Seminary. So we'll do our best. There's some challenging language here, but shall we pray together? Our God, who are in pluriverses, the skies and the earth, blessed be your name, life. May your pulsing life come to be seen, heard, touched, and felt through the oceans and the forests, in the rocks, in the life of plants, and in the sounds of animals and singing birds. May the atmosphere of the sky that carries our ability to breathe continue balanced as fossil presences are kept under the earth. Give us this day our daily bread through a variety of seeds and grains and leaves. Forgive our plundering of the earth, our total lack of relation and reciprocity with the earth, and more than human beings, as cells, mycelium, fungi, and infinite processes of symbiosis. Forgive us daily by giving back when we destroy it. And lead us not into consumerism and the devouring of the earth, but deliver us from the apathy that says nothing can be changed. For life is kinship, relationality, and reciprocity, now and forever. Amen. Shall we stand as we are able, and we'll sing together 241, Joy Dawned again on Easter Day, and may we hear the instruments play it through for us once.
The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of God's hands. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. They have no speech, they use no words, no sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom from his wedding canopy, and like a champion runs its course with joy. The law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The decrees of the Lord are sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commandment of the Lord is radiant, giving light to the eyes. The reverence of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. This is the witness of the people of God.
It's long been the custom of many preachers, including my favorite preacher, who happens to be the one standing here most Sundays, to preface their sermon with the words of prayer that end Psalm 19, the prayer being that the words I speak and the meditations of our heart might be pleasing, might be aligned with, might bring delight to God. With its reference to the sun rising and running its daily course with joy. And I love that little detail. Joy not as something optional or additional to life, but like the cherry on top, but rather joy built into, inherent, essential to life. Scholars locate this as an early morning prayer, a prayer of thanks for the sun as it returns or as we turn back towards it. So not just for preachers, a wonderful prayer for anyone to start a new day with. Let my words and actions today, God, let my meditations like the sun be an expression of joy to you. Reading back from the end of the psalm back to the beginning, I've long counted that first verse of Psalm 19 as one of my absolute favorite scriptures in all the Bible. And I find it interesting when I compare the beginning and the end. I find myself wondering, how would the sermon be framed differently? How might it be understood or heard differently if the preacher, rather than beginning with the prayer that ends it, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts, what if the preacher stood up, cleared their throat, and said, the heavens are telling the glory of God, the skies are proclaiming the work of God's hands, day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. Beginning with those words reminds me that really in the end, it's not just me as an individual that's standing here preaching, but when I take a step back, in the bigger picture of it, it's really God's creation. It's the universe itself that's the revelatory event. That life itself is a sermon that's forever preaching, forever being preached. And that what's happening between me and you right now is just as natural a part of today's sermon as the wildflowers, like the hepatica that heralds the dawn of spring when it blooms on the forest floor. It's a fragile white flower that nevertheless must be strong and hardy to be the first one to bloom, even as the snow melts. And it opens just at that moment when the earliest pollinators, the carpenter and sweat bees, rouse. Pollinator greeting pollen, and a little momentary orchestration of the particular gospel of this early spring ephemeral season. As has been mentioned, I was invited to offer these words today because the Care of Creation team is sponsoring a reading of my new book, Speak with the Earth and It Will Teach You, a field guide to the Bible. So for today, as a way to kind of get into this and kick off this study, I'm very grateful to have this chance to share a bit with you about the basic message of the book and some of my journey in writing it. As a path into it, I want to honor and give voice to the land who raised me. And I take that from a wonderful question that I'd love to be able to explore with you sometime. The question being, tell me about the land who raised you. The land who raised me and is still raising me is ancestral Ojibwe land, now hosting a multi-generational constellation of family cabins on a lake in northern Wisconsin. A place where I grew up spending 3 full months every summer and some winters as well. A place I'm very grateful now to live near enough to get to visit about once a month throughout the year, checking in with the land in all of its seasons. This is a land of white pines, oaks, birches, maples, leopard frogs and snapping turtles, eagles and herons, bass and pike, and yes, ticks and mosquitoes. Sweet-smelling sandy soil and cattail, lily pad, and tamarack bogs. It's a place where the full moon rises across the lake, casting its orange glow like a road on the waters while the loons wail back and forth. Night to night declares knowledge. The other land who raised me was the woods and rivers of Northeast Ohio and the Lake Erie watershed, where growing up my family would spend the rest of the year, especially the Chagrin River with its sandstone and shale cliffs and waterfalls that I would climb and fish and swim in. This was the land of my formal school education as well, and as being part of the millennial generation, my early memories of environmental education in particular focus around key words like save and protect. Our generational references weren't Silent Spring or the Cuyahoga River catching on fire, but for us it was Free Willy and Save the Whales. For us it was Fern Gully and Protect the Rainforest. It was Panda Bear, and then it was Polar Bear. It was global warming, and then the language shifted to climate change, and then and now climate chaos, crisis, emergency, and the feelings that come with that: eco-grief, climate anxiety, nature deficit, the sixth mass extinction, species loneliness, solastalgia, a new word I wanted to share with you today. Unlike nostalgia, which is a longing for maybe a different time and place, this new word solastalgia means longing for your own time and place that's been your own homeland that's suddenly been altered forever ecologically. Solastalgia, let the words of my mouth. Fast forward a few years and few landscapes later, and I was a young pastor at a rural church in Vermont. I was eager and excited, if not knowing quite how to make this connection between my environmental concern and my vocation. I was trained really with an academic background to think my job as preacher was to be an interpreter of written text. So each week I would turn to the lectionary and read the scriptures. I would read commentaries on those scriptures. I would read commentaries on those commentaries. I would, as I was taught, hold the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. It took me a few years of doing that to realize that the congregation I was serving was engaged in a different type of reading. So on Sundays, I would stand up and announce the church calendar. Today is the fourth Sunday of Advent. Today is Pentecost. Today, which it is the second Sunday of Easter. We'd then pass the microphone around and people would stand up and share joys and celebrations. Today, I celebrate my first bluebird sighting. I learned that meant today is the first Sunday of true spring. This week, I took a drive through the mountains and the fall colors were spectacular. I mean, today is the Sunday of peak leaves. So while I thought we were really following the church calendar, this congregation, much more attuned to the landscape than I was, taught me that ours was a journey also of following what's called the phenological calendar of when things happen on the landscape, and that we were reading for God together in this calendar, in the cycle of its happenings. Day to day pours forth speech. I realized then if I was going to help make the Bible come alive in this community, I needed to find and practice a new way of interpreting it. The Jewish rabbinic tradition has really a wonderful image for this. They say that the Bible is like a gemstone, it's like a diamond. And that our task when we read it, when we turn our gaze on this treasured heirloom that's been lovingly passed down to us generation to generation, the rabbis say the point really is to turn the gem. You turn that gem. Because when you turn a gem like a diamond, it reflects and refracts light in new ways. So what if we were to turn the Bible dramatically towards the earth? Turn it away from focusing only on the human characters and drama, but turn it towards the more than human world of trees, clouds, rivers, mountains. So what do trees in the Bible, for example, when we try to read things from their perspective, have to teach us? There's a story about the prophet Elijah. He's on the run for his life after a conflict with Queen Jezebel's prophets. Seeing no hope, Elijah journeys into the desert alone, and he falls on his knees beneath a broom tree. "I've had enough, God," he says. And then he falls asleep under that tree. It's said that an angel visited him that night, providing him nourishment and providing him hope, giving him the message that his purpose, his journey with God, wasn't done yet. This time under the tree heals the prophet from his despair. This healing power of trees, it's being something that we're only just now beginning to understand a bit more. Studies show that if you have a view of trees from your hospital window, you will recover quicker. Or the growing popularity of a spiritual exercise like forest bathing, letting time among the trees soothe and save you. Or just the fact that so many powerful medicines are directly come from trees. There's aspirin from willow bark, the cancer medicine Taxol from the yew tree. The broom tree, it happens to provide the best firewood in that landscape in the desert. And so nomads would cook their dinner over its coals, and then the practice was to bury those coals under the sand and sleep on them, the tree providing nourishment and comfort during the night. And from January through April, the broom tree in blossom is one of the most beautiful sights and smells in the desert. Maybe like how the crabapple and cherry, and then soon after the lilac will be here. Legend has it that when the angel visited Elijah, the broom tree burst into bloom. So the very tree itself, as I have come to see it, both on a material, physical level, as well as spiritually, with the beauty of its blossoms, healing the prophet. "I asked the tree, tell me about God," wrote Indian poet Tagore, and then it blossomed. We could take rivers, too, and reread the Bible from that perspective. I invite you to come and sign up for the book study to learn more. Or mountains. Reread the Bible from the perspective of mountains. What effect do they have? What wisdom do they have to teach? Sign up for the book study and learn more. Or clouds, and I will give a glimpse here. Clouds are so often celebrated as the most expressive aspects of God's creation. The Bible is a decidedly cloud-positive writing and culture, unlike sometimes our maybe cloud-negative way of thinking sometimes. Psalm 104, it pictures clouds as the chariot that God rides as God sails through the sky. Makes me think of a group of high cirrus clouds that's known as mare's tails. Picture them galloping off with joy, like the sun, into those open fields of sky. The ever-changing clouds that bless us each day, they're like the daily bread of the eyes, as Emerson put it. They're the ultimate art gallery that's always above us. So, speak with the earth and it will teach you. That title comes from the book of Job, but more than a title and more than a book, what I want to say today is that I hope it invites us to a type of orientation and an attitude that I believe is being called forth and called for at this moment. I've heard this described as a species moment for us on this planet. I think we're being invited to take up our role as students again of the earth, to relate to nature as mentor, and to humble ourselves and see ourselves as native wisdom like the Ojibwe tradition teaches, that we are the newcomers. We humans are the newest characters in this sacred story. We're the youngest ones. And as such, we have the most to learn and the most maturing to do. And as such, we're the most directly dependent on the offerings and care and medicine and teaching of our elders, plants, animals, rocks, clouds. They use no words, yet their voice goes out into all the earth. I used to think that nature was ours to protect, that the earth was ours to love and to save. I'm now starting to see it that the earth is not ours, but that we belong to the earth. I now see it's not just about offering our love for the earth, but it's about realizing and trusting that the earth, in fact, loves us. The earth, in fact, loves you. So I now see that nature is not ours to save, but that nature saves us. Yes. Nature saves us when we remember we belong to the whole, that we are nature, that we are earth. And so I think that the climate fear we feel in our bodies is the fear of the forests in California as the wildfires approach. And I think the loneliness we feel is the loneliness of the white rhino facing extinction. But so too, the joy we feel is the joy of the sun running its daily course, the joy of the finch singing its heart out, the joy of the hepatica flowering, and greeting again its old friend, the bee. And so may these words in my mouth, may they be inspiration, reminder, permission, challenge, and blessing for you this week as you speak with the earth, as you turn to earth as mentor and teacher. And when this great conversation brings you to a place beyond words, may the meditations of your heart be attuned to that great sermon of life that is forever preaching, forever being preached. Because no matter what else is happening, no matter who you are or where you find yourself in life, it's always the case that the heavens are telling the glory of God and the skies proclaim the work of God's hands.
I invite us to stand now as we sing number 3, Many and Great, O God, Are Your Works. And before Bruce and Vicki play it through for us once, here's the story of this hymn, probably the best known Native American hymn we're about to sing. This hymn is sung with great reverence by the Dakota people in worship, at communion, and for births, funerals, and burials. You can read more at the bottom of the page. Shall we stand and listen to it first on the instruments, and then we'll sing the verses 1 and 2 in English.
in honor of the great anthem earlier, I Got Me Flowers, I leave you with this quote from British philosopher Iris Murdoch. She said, "People from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy the whole time to have such things about us." So the sermon that is life could express itself in many, many ways, but right now, for these weeks, it will be expressing itself through flowers. And so how wonderful is that? Let's try to be mad with joy during this brief and fleeting and wonderful season. Amen. One more quote, Japanese haiku poet Basho, "The temple bell stops, but the sound keeps coming out of the flowers."